The mental health of our teenage population is critically important to ensuring the fabric of our next generation remains vibrant, strong, and fortified. Because, as the old adage goes, our children are our future. Consequently, as a society, we should be able to empty all of the tools out of our toolbox of supportive resources to ensure our kids have a clear shot at a prosperous future. Thus, I'm here today to provide a status report and a report card as to the progress we've made and the work we still need to do. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, the Office of Population Affairs, adolescent mental health is on the upswing. That's the good news. However, the office reports that we should take this as a cautionary tale because they say that 49.5% of America's youth today has experienced at least one mental health disorder within their lifetime. The silver lining in this discussion is as follows. If we promote positive mental health practices and behaviors for our teens to emulate, it can go a long way to eradicating this mental health concern. One man on a mission to do just that is my friend Austin Davis. He's a visionary leader in the space of teenage behavioral health and addiction treatment, spreading the last 15 plus years, committed to transforming the lives of families and teens alike. He uses the power of faith in the recovery process to assist his clients in growing into healthy and happy members of their communities at large. He's the CEO and founder of Clearfork Academy, the go-to treatment center in Texas for troubled teens. His dedication to improving teenage mental health makes him a driving thought leader within the industry. He has spoken to educational professionals, community leaders, parents, teens, and religious leaders, all in an effort to provide them the insights on effective treatment methods and the importance of mental health awareness and using faith in the recovery process. He joined me this week to provide his perspective on teenage mental health, the work we've done to provide our younger population with the resources they need to thrive, and the work that still needs to be done in this area to make sure that our kids have a fighting chance not only to survive, but also to thrive. So without further delay, I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. My friend, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to talk to you all about behavioral health and the health of our teenagers this morning. Great to see you, my friend, and thanks so very much for being here.
Yep, absolutely. Ready to go.
Absolutely. So, Austin, I know you spent the last 15 years sort of working with families and teenagers on behavioral issues and addiction, my friend. So, I'm wondering if we can start our conversation by you telling me about your work and what makes you so fabulous, my friend.
Well, yeah, so I got my master's in counseling 2008, and it was family systems and substance use kind of focus. Yeah, and so just from there, it's been a myriad of clinical environments: public mental health, psych hospital work, um, and then clinical and mental health treatment in an inpatient setting with adults. And then during that sort of career, had this epiphany that says, man, like, A, I could do this on my own, and B, when I'm working with a 30, 40, 50-year-old man, all we're doing is talking about his 12 or 13 or 14-year-old self and what happened during those years. And so really been able to uh, kind of curate this clinical process um, and apply it to teens' lives who are struggling with mental health or substance use issues. So that's kind of the short version.
Yeah, and to that point, Austin, I'm curious. For you, what does it mean to help families transform their perspectives and ultimately their lives? What does that mean to you, my friend?
Yeah, what does it mean to me, man? That's why I get up every morning and do it all over again. Is for the one kiddo or the one family who finds freedom. They rekindle their relationship, they reconnect, they sit back at the dinner table together. I mean, those are the wins that we hope and pray for every day, and that we expect um, to happen, each and every day. And so that's why we get up and do it all over again, is to have those wins for the families. And so it makes it worth it for all the other days.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Austin, I know that using the power of faith is in the recovery process is important to you. So can you talk to me about using the power of faith to help families arrive sort of at a happier mental place? What does the power of faith mean in the work that you do, my friend?
Yeah, so you can have faith in anything, and it won't do anything for your life. But I think faith or belief in Christ is transformative at all levels. And so at some point during the clinical process, somebody says, in various ways, who am I? Why am I here? Why am I created? Suicide rates are through the roof because people don't know that they're created on purpose or for a higher purpose. Therefore, it's easy to remove yourself from this world. And so we take that integrative kind of Christian approach with our clinical expertise, and we marry those things together because I think the clinical process is vital. And in parallel, the faith component is, and asking those existential questions of who am I, what is my purpose, why am I created, who really loves me. Those things can be answered in a clinical and sterile way, but faith in the Bible helps give some foundation to that. And so we're not prescriptive with that. We are available, when those questions are asked, to kind of present that information. So it's really a marriage between that clinical excellence and then that faith components that make us really unique in what we do.
Yeah, and Austin, I know that you are the CEO of a company and an academy called Clearfork Academy, my friend, where you go to treatment center in Texas for troubled teens, my friends. I'm wondering if you can tell me about the work of the academy and what it's all about, my friend.
Yeah, we have 4 locations now, and so 2 of them are residential. We have a boys campus and a girls campus, and then 2 outpatient locations that are kind of distributed across the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And they serve 13 to 17-year-old teenagers who are entrenched in mental health and substance use issues. And so families come to us from all over the nation. The kids stay for about 90 days, and we put them through our scope and sequence is a 90-day program, really built on kind of 3 concepts, and one is like values. And so that's sort of the overarching theme for each week is our values, and those are honor, unity, sacrifice, transparency, legacy, excellence, and fun. And then right underneath that, we have our clinical interventions, and so we've set up a process that focuses on best practice clinical interventions that make a difference, and there's evidence behind them, and we're not just throwing things out that don't work. And so we're going to execute those every week. And then alongside of those are tangible life skills. And so those are the nuanced things that we do day in and day out. And it takes all 130 employees to wrap around and look at what those skills are day in and day out. So we're going to have these themes or values, interventions, and skills that make up our program. And we could talk family systems and programming that's adjunct to all of that for a long time. So, but that's kind of us in a nutshell.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Austin, I'm also curious to ask you your definition of the concept of human centered leadership, my friend, and what that means to you.
Human centered leadership. Not really. Uh, can you expound on the phrase a little bit, and what does that mean?
In terms of leading from your values and your systems, and in terms of the principles you stand on, what do you think it means to be authentic to your values as a leader?
Yeah, I think that's paramount in anything you do in life, right? And so the phrase that I use with our team is be the metronome, right? I pretend to be a musician when I'm not working, and that little metronome sits in the background and sets the tempo for anything that you play. Um, and so our values are in the same way. Our values set the tone and the temperament of each day of every interaction. Who have a value of honor, right? So it's like I have to honor just not just my contracts. I have to honor my word. I have to honor other people. I have to honor our patients. And what that looks like is just in every situation trying to do the right thing. And so leading from that, our values shapes everything that we do. It shapes how we speak and how we live, um, how we hire, how we train, all of those things.
Yeah, and Austin, I'm also curious to ask you about studying a team's background from a socioeconomic perspective and how those factors contribute to their behavior. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. Um, so we have, it's kind of a paradox because at the core of humanity, I think there's just some basic questions that every one of us ask. And then the socioeconomic differences flesh out how those are asked. So, I mean, I think we all look for value, purpose, and meaning, and so our 1 to 3% of the world, that may be a Range Rover that they're looking for in terms of identity and purpose and esteem, to where our lesser socioeconomic classes. That's not a Range Rover. That's gangs, or that's different types of things. Or those are two kind of drastic analogies, but um, substance use and mental health is an equal opportunity like offender, right? There's no class or sect that isn't um, affected by depression, anxiety, or substance use. And so I think it's the outward symptoms may look different, but the things of the heart are the same. And that's how we look at doing treatment. Is I envision, our families who private fly in on their own airplane versus our kid who showed up with a bus ticket. Those two kids are sitting in treatment together, and both have the same issues of the heart, working alongside each other to get better.
Yeah, and to that point, my friend, I know that you've traveled the nation talking to community health leaders, educators, parents, and teens alike all about the work that you do and the different treatment methods available to them. And I'm curious if you can pull back the curtain on some of those conversations and what you've learned about the concerns about parents and with parents and teens alike, my friend, and how you meet teens and parents and those other community officials sort of on the level that they are and sort of meet them where they are and help them work through those issues. What sort of things have come out of those conversations that have been most intriguing to you, my friend? I'm curious to get your answer there.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with meeting them where they are, and I think that's probably the most important thing, is um, helping people understand that there's somebody outside of their crisis that is available. And one of the big themes that we always hear and see is a family comes in and they think they're the only family dealing with this issue with their kid. They feel alone, they feel isolated, they feel in some ways like impaired or crippled to deal with those issues. And so when we put several folks in the room, there's one brave hand that shoots up into the air and divulges a situation, and then all of a sudden 10 or 12 other hands are identifying at the same time with this parent. And so um, yeah, I think parents, one of the biggest things is just parents don't have the tools. I'm a father of three, and I can't. I've done this work for 15 years or more, and I can't imagine my kid being in this situation, and what the emotions I would feel. I would probably feel just as incompetent, although I'm the quote unquote expert in this, and so having to um, submit to the process would be really difficult for me. So I think that's it. I mean, there's just a commonality of parents really not having the knowledge or skills to be able to do this, and so that's where we come in with education and intervention, and really coming alongside of families to walk through this process together.
Yeah, and to that point, I'm curious to ask you about the work that we have to do to help teens sort of heal from a fractured relationship and begin the repair process in that journey. So, how do you think we can be better allies in helping teens heal from fractured or broken relationships? What are your thoughts there?
That's again a great question, and that is to me the essence of treatment and work, right? I think first is we call it forgiveness and repentance, right? Those seem very faith-centered words, but they're very applicable to like the recovery process, and I say recovery both in substance and in depression, anxiety, suicidality, the mental health things, because that too is a recovery journey, just like heroin use or something. And so restoring those familiar relationships is the backbone of both, because I think we're designed and built to live in community, and we were issued that community with our parents, with our siblings, just from the very beginnings. And so I think there has to be an inner work, first with our kids, our patients. There has to be sort of a self-forgiveness and a self repentance of, or turning away from, right? All of our kids are angry at some point, and so I define that like forgiveness component is like I forfeit my right to be angry at you, and a lot of times that's mom or dad, and a kid may have a legitimate right. They may have been abandoned, they may have been abused, they may have been um, left to their own devices for too long, and there's anger and resentment that builds up over those years, and we see a lot of adoption, a lot of divorce, and a lot of trauma, and that issuing forgiveness, that forfeiting the right to be angry, is kind of that first step of reintegration into family systems or community. And so that has to go both ways. Mom and dad can be really angry at their child for wrecking the car, for um, whatever they do, ruining the family reputation. So there has to be that sort of bilateral forgiveness, to reconnect, and then that repentance is really just turning away from. And so I used to yell and scream and fight. Now I'm going to be calm, articulate, and engaging. And so there's just a turning away from maladaptive patterns of behavior, that hurt the family and the family systems and communities. And so I think that's just a kind of an overview of how to reintegrate those kids into good healthy family systems.
Yeah, and Austin, we're having this conversation today after the latest mass shooting in America that happened yesterday in Georgia. And I don't have to tell you that gun violence is now the leading cause of young people in America today. So how do you think we come to a place where we can provide kids the emotional and physical safety to express themselves even when they're going through trauma? And what do you think is the key to reversing this epidemic, my friend? Based on the work that you do, I'm curious to get your answer there.
Um, Man, it could be really rudimentary. Again, I think it's parents being engaged in their child's lives. Um, there's thousands of resources, within the schools, within communities. Some of them are overrun, and some of them, have few people in them. And so I think there's plenty of helpers to help. Um, but at the end of the day, it's not the teacher's job. It's not the therapist's job. It's our families. It's our parents, to be less engaged in their phone, less engaged in the social media and what's on, the next streaming service, to numb out, or 100-hour weeks, right? Like, I think a lot of folks are just misguided, right, with how they parent and engage their kids' hearts and minds. And so we can go to half price books and pick up parenting books. We can listen to this podcast, or like whatever it is. There's thousands and thousands of resources for our families, and I don't know how we miss kids who turn out to do these shootings and things like that, because from a clinical standpoint, it's like red flashing lights when we see kids like that, and we sort of kind of know or have an inkling that there could be some of these issues. So yeah, that again, that takes a whole community, that takes a whole nation to eradicate these sort of events.
Yeah, absolutely. And Austin, I'm also curious to ask you about how we create positive spaces of emotional energy. And what I mean by that is, how do we build resources so that kids can also strengthen their emotional compass to communicate their thoughts, feelings, and opinions to show up as the best versions of themselves? What are your thoughts there?
Um, my first thought is modeling. We don't have a culture that models um, any sort of hierarchy anymore. Right? Teachers aren't respected. Police officers aren't respected. Any authority is not respected, and so there's this rogue individuality um, that's free of any sort of accountability, and I think that when that happens, it bleeds into um, this degradation of mental health and awareness of. And so how do we build ourselves up? um I think it's really an outward service thing, and so I think when everything is reflected inwardly, that can be really depressing. But when you quote unquote help the old lady cross the street, there's a significant brain change. There's dopaminergic responses to service, and when we serve and we focus our lives outwardly, um, that really changes. There's good science on that changes the brain, and so when we're consumers of stuff and data and images, there's a false sense of reward. Again, those dopaminergic releases happen, but it's false. There's no community engagement. There's no long-term effects there. It's there's no satiation, right? It's not fulfilling. So I think how do we fix that is modeling, right? I think we use our words to affirm, we use our words to serve, we use our words, and that becomes um, reciprocal, and kids learn that way to love others and themselves in the same way.
Yeah, and just from a personal perspective, Austin, I'm curious to ask you about how your educational background and your personal experience has influenced sort of the clinical work that you do and your work within the church ministry as well, my friend. So, how does your personal educational background and personal background influence the work that you do today?
So I tell people I kind of have two careers. One was working in the church, and I've got 2 degrees, church related, and then I have this clinical degree, and now 15 years or so of clinical work, and so those can't be held in a vacuum by themselves. They're so intertwined, because I do see the work that we do as non-sterile, as relational, and that's difficult for some people. Like, the work we do is messy, it's personal, we're engaging in people's mess, and so that takes a level of humility and service and um, just engagement that's not a 9 to 5 job. And so, yeah, the two, the faith and the clinical work, they can't be held independently to me. They're both one and the same, but at the same time held with their own level of autonomy and skill set and things like that. So, yeah, I couldn't do one without the other, I don't think, because the worldview of Christianity shapes how I think about humanity, right? And how you think about humanity shapes your clinical skill set and how you do treatment. So yeah, they're interworking and independent all by itself. And so I think the work that we do at Clearfork, that's what makes us so unique, is because there is kind of that both and component or components of what we do.
Yeah, and I'll give you the platform now to talk to me about increasing mental health resources for youth and adolescents, my friend, because we know that no matter how hard we try, the resources that we currently have to address this issue are lacking in some areas. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on what's the key to increasing the mental health resources that we have to help some of these teens out and address some of these issues. What are your thoughts there?
Um, I'm gonna be a self-professed capitalist here, and I think it's just some sort of capitalism, right? Like, we can rely on the government to provide programs and resources and things like that. But I think at the end of the day, we live in America. We live in a capitalistic environment, and we have the ability to create businesses that are focused on change. And when we do that, when we empower those people, we pay for those services. That's what drives like new business. And so we created Clearfork kind of out of nothing. My wife and I had a calling, and we pursued that calling to do this work. And so we kind of trusted in the process, and kind of exchanging hours for dollars. Like, that's a economic society. And so as long as there's not extortion or abuse of patients, like, I think that environment is the way in which we solve this. And it may seem weird, but because we've tried. I've worked at government agencies, and I've done things like that, and those are giant cruise ships that they have a purpose, right? But I think the mom and pop places, the places like Clearfork, there could be thousands of those in small rural communities, and where these instances are happening, and things that can prevent stuff. And so I think it's just people saying, hey, I want to do that. I want to make a difference, and they either go work for somebody in this environment, or they start something on their own.
Yeah, and to that point, as a dad yourself, Austin, I'm curious to get your thoughts on raising kids in today's society and the challenges that come with that, but also the rewards. And I'm also curious to ask you about the role social media plays in the whole ecosystem of raising kids. What are your thoughts on both of those issues, my friend?
Well, I'm grateful and thankful. My wife was educator for about 10 years. She's got her master's degree in education. And so we made the hard decision to do the homeschool life when our son was like 3 years old. And so for the last 7 or 8 years, we've done the homeschool life, just because two reasons. I mean, we're an entrepreneurial family, and so we like to we like to be mobile and explore life. And the other reason is like the education system is completely broken, right? They're teaching to a test, they're managing chaos. Parents aren't supportive. So it needs a mass overhaul. Teachers are burnt out and broken and kind of stuck. So there's a lot of inherent problems with education, and so that's why we made the decision to do homeschool life. And I mean, my kids are learning piano and Latin and playing sports, and it's not typical homeschool from 25, 30 years ago. There's thousands of resources and engagement. So when we think about social media, that's 100% no-go for my kids. They have, a very curated access to like YouTube and some other things, but Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, they're not going to have access to those things till they can, navigate their own life without the doom scrolling and possessive engagement in those. And so we've just seen so many consequences that are negative from social media. I get it. There's an aspect to it. But the consumer mentality with it is, or the addiction to it is so pervasive. And so we're a home that hides the devices, and they check them in and out, and there's no free reign to these things.
Well, there's nothing like authentic human connection, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Austin, I'm going to end this way, my friend, and I'm curious for you, when we look at a hopeful future in the realm of behavioral health for teenagers, what gives you the most hope moving forward in our ability to make progress in this space? And just finally, when you look at your own personal and professional legacy, my friend, how do you want that to be defined?
Oh, that's a great question. At some point, I would love to be able to help every single caller that reaches out to us, whether that's through a foundation because there's lacking resources, or there's just a new program. So we have a wide variety of callers who call us. So that would be my hope, is like, we're continuing to branch out and do different types of services for every single caller, because every caller is kind of unique. And so my legacy really is I want to be known, just as our company. I want Clearfork just to be known as just the best adolescent treatment provider out there, right? And how do we do that? That's through being Christ-centered and through family-focused and long-term, right? That's kind of how we hope that we are able to engage in those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Austin, tell me, if people want to get connected with Clearfork or you personally, what's the best way they can do that?
Clearforkacademy.com.
Well, fabulous, my friend. Well, I want to commend you for all the great strides you're making in the fields of teenage mental health and behavioral health. I want to commend you for the good work that you're doing, and I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me this morning. It's most appreciated.
Likewise, thank you so much, and best of luck with all the rest of your podcasts.